Hey Year 11, so in this video I'm going to talk to you about your investigation to do with the Music and Memory research program. Alrighty, so the important thing to remember about the research program is when you're developing your report, you need to have quite a few pages in the report, and you also only are allowed to use certain titles. So only the words over here in bold, or the ones sticking out over here, can actually be written down as a title. So cover page, contents page, proposal, introduction, results, discussion, and conclusion are the only headings you're allowed in this report. It should follow this order, and these little subheadings are just so you know where you're going. Now, a really important thing that I want everyone to remember for the entire report is that you're not allowed to use you're not allowed to use first person language, only third person. So what you don't want to be doing is saying things like, I believe that, or I did this, or my group, or our proposal is. You need to say the proposal, the participants, the researcher, okay? And that just takes yourself out and allows people to think that you're writing this really objectively as a researcher. Okay, I'm going to move my face up here. Hopefully it doesn't interrupt the picture too much. So you have quite a few things to do in your proposal. In your proposal, it can only be 250 words, and you need to write it in future tense. So you have to pretend like you actually haven't done the research yet, okay? The purpose of doing a proposal is to write this up and send it out to rich people to say, my study's really important. It's fundamental that we do this. Here's why, and here's what I want to do. And then you would send it out and have all these rich people read your proposal and be like, oh, yes, that sounds good. Here's lots of money. So you need to write in a way that convinces me that this is worth doing, okay? And not like we've already done it. So there's a few things to include. I'm going to move myself in the corner because this box here is really important, okay? So you need to come up with a research question. Now, the research question usually goes in the header of your document, so it doesn't count in the word count. A research question is just overlooking what you're going to be studying and phrasing it as a question. You would be used to this in research project as well. So what's really important to remember is that when we did our study, we did lots of different tests. We did lots of different things in it. You just have to choose one of those things to study, and you have to ignore the rest. So if you're doing the free recall music test, you have to forget that we did all of the other tests, and you have to write this whole thing up like we didn't do any of those tests. Okay. The next thing you need to do is come up with a hypothesis, which again is a prediction of what you believe is going to happen. Now, if you go to my old PowerPoint, the other one that is on sector, you'll see a nice little formula for writing a hypothesis. You just have to include the IV and the DV, so the two different groups, and what you're going to be testing them on to have a good hypothesis. The next thing you need to do is include background information on the research question. So anything that you believe is relevant to what you're studying. So if you're looking at memory and gender, you might want to look at any studies that have previously been done on memory and gender. And you can use that as the reason why you chose that hypothesis. The next thing you need to do is write a very, very short method overview. Okay, so this can't be any longer than 2 sentences, just describing what participants will be doing, okay, in order to answer the research question. Then you need to explain why this study is so important. So what people have done in the past, if they've gone to like say that our studies are going to help influence education or influence the practice of medicine in a certain way, because they've thought about what we're going to find and then what application it could have into the real world. So you really have to sell it to me. Now, the other 3 boxes we have here are just help for you. So this first one up here that's kind of like moss green looks at the research design to be used. So you have to choose one of these 3 research designs, and I've just given you some information next to it as to which one it might be to help. So you need to state whether it's experimental research design quantitative observational research design, qualitative research design. Okay. Then after that, you need to write down what sort of test you're going to be running. So that might be the cued recall test, but then you need to state what sort of data you're going to collect. So I've got those down here as well. So objective quantitative, subjective quantitative, or qualitative. Okay, so you need to state which one it is. Then this last one down here is you have to state, once you have your data, what you're going to do with it. Okay, so when the participants, they write up their memory test scores, what are you going to do with it? How is that going to help you? Okay, so you might calculate the mean and median. You might put it into a graph. So you might want to start thinking about what sort of graph you want to put it into. And then what will you expect to see if the hypothesis is supported? Okay, so what do you expect to see if the hypothesis is supported? So this should be written up in paragraph form and not in dot point form, and you're doing this together. So I strongly recommend doing it as a Google Doc and making sure everyone reads through each other's parts to see that it flows through and you haven't used I, me, our, your, and you also have written in future tense. That's really important to do that. Okay, don't go over this proposal word count. It's really important you stick to it. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.